had killed them all in one way or another. He knew it was time to move on. He put the ranch up for sale and watched as the gray wolves and coyotes came and made short work of the carcasses of his cattle and horses. He watched the ice dripping from the eaves and drank bitter black coffee and weighed his options. He was down to thin pockets and no future, a situation he had become well accustomed to for most of his life. He knew one thing, though. Cheyenne and John Henry Cole were quits. Any reason he had to stay was gone. When finally the weather grew warm enough, he took one last walk up the hill to the cemetery with Cleopatra, because she'd asked him if he would. The warm winds tugged at their clothes, and the sun lay at low angles across the winter landscape and made the slopes of ice look blue in places. As they climbed the grade to the little boot hill, they could look back and see snow on the roofs of the town and black wisps of smoke curling from stovepipes. It was a peaceful scene, if you didn't know better. Death was surely as present among the living as it was on that little cemetery ridge. "I'd as soon it had been me that died than him," Cleo said, her voice quavering like a wire in the wind. She coughed into a small silk hanky, and it tinged red. "All these years I waited for a good man to come along." Her voice lost its strength, and she coughed again and knuckled the dampness from her eyes. Her pale features stood in stark contrast to the black mourning dress she wore. Cole understood what it felt like to be willing to trade places with the dead. He counted the graves of his friends, and it was like ticking off time, each one representing a memory, a good time, a shared glass of liquor, a laugh, a sense of indescribable loss. "I know he loved me," Cleo said, standing before the rock cairn of Shorty Blaine's final resting place. The ground was still frozen, and the dead had to be buried under rocks until the thaw, when graves could be dug. Shorty Blaine, Wayback Cotton, Bart Bledsoe. 3 good men had come to a bad end. "I know he loved you, too," Cole said to Cleo. "He left me the cafe," she said. "But I don't know that I'll stay. I was thinking of selling it and moving east. Boston, maybe." Cleo had been a prostitute that Shorty had met and married only a few short months before. Maybe she thought she needed to run it past Cole, her plans to leave Cheyenne, since Shorty and Cole had been friends for the better part of 20 years. "You don't need my permission," Cole said. "Shorty would want you to be happy. Slinging hash for cowboys and living up here in this high lonesome country isn't much of a future for a woman." She put her hand through the crook of his arm. "Thank you for saying that, John Henry," she said. "Walk me back down the hill to town, and I'll fix you a good breakfast before you go off to wherever it is you're planning on going." John Henry Cole was staring at his reflection in the mirror of the Arbuckle's coffee in his cup, while Cleo was in the kitchen fixing up what she called a hellacious breakfast, when the door to the cafe rattled open before closing hard against the hard wind. A man wearing a greatcoat and a bowler stood there, looking about. "We're not open for business yet, mister," Cleo said, popping her head out from the kitchen. "There's been a death in the family." "I didn't come here to eat," he said. Then, looking directly at Cole with dark, feral eyes under a massive brow, he said, "You John Henry Cole?" "Who's asking?" Cole noticed he had a slight limp as he approached the table. "Teddy Green," he said. He looked at Cleo just long enough to make an appraisal, but it wasn't the usual sort of look a man gives a woman. There was nothing to indicate he had that sort of hunger in him. "I don't know you," Cole said, taking his makings from his waistcoat to roll a shuck. The man's gaze switched back to Cole. "You've heard of me, though," he said. Cole had.